Hello everybody, it's me Ghost Critic, and we're almost to the end of 2017, which can only mean one thing: it's time for my annual boxing up video. For those of you who aren't aware of this, every year all the comic books that I've picked up on my pull list every Wednesday gets put in the boxes to make way for next year's comics. So I have my long box ready to start putting them in. I think I probably would have needed another one, so we're going to have to play around a little bit. For those of you who are interested, I don't put them in years. It's not like there's a box of 2017, 2016, 2015. All my boxes go in alphabetical order. So once I put them all in here for the use of this video, then I will start rearranging all my boxes and rearranging all the alphabet and getting them all fitted in. And like I said, I think I might need to get another box. But so what are we going to do? We're going to go through this is going to be in like 3, maybe 4 parts. The first part are all the kind of odds and ends, things I've tried but didn't continue to pick up for whatever reason. Then I will do the smaller imprints, what have we got? Boom, Dark Horse, Aftershock Comics, all those kind of smaller imprints. Then we'll go on to DC, then we'll go on to Marvel, and then we'll finish off with Image. I'm basically just going to show you everything that I've picked up this week, this week. And just a quick few things that I thought about them as the year progressed on. These videos tend to get longer every year I do them. My apologies for that. I don't expect you to sit down and watch this all in one go. You can watch it in little segments if you so desire. So, should we kick off with all those comics? It didn't matter where they came from, what imprint, but the books that I kind of was like tried and went, no, not this time. We're going to kick off DC. It was a 6-issue mini-series, Ragman. I only picked up the 1 issue. They played around with the origin, which I'm not surprised because DC have rebirthed and converged and done all sorts of things to their lines that you're going to get a different origin story, but that was okay. Dustin Weaver's Packlist, it was kind of a sci-fi anthology series, which was okay. It just, after number 2 and the price point on it, I was just kind of like, I don't think this is going to be something that I'm going to want to keep picking up. It might be good or get better, but I'm not willing to pay that price and wait for it. Something that I probably would have picked up a lot more if I knew it was out and got it on my pull list quick enough, but I'm sure this will get put in a nice big omnibus edition. But Richard Corbin's Shadow on the Grave, these again, it's kind of like a horror anthology series written and drawn by Richard Corbin, so you know what you're getting, and it's going to be good. But just for whatever reason I kind of missed out after about 3 issues, and then I saw issue 1 and I went for it. Seems to be a huge name from 2017, but I only picked up the first issue of Image's God Country by Donny Cates. He does seem to be the name on everyone's lips right now, and he's getting bigger and bigger and getting bigger opportunities. This just felt a little bit too familiar. I kind of read the elements of the story before elsewhere. This year DC did the whole rebirth, and I tried a few different ones out. I tried Batwoman. I'd had a really fun time with it in the New 52 until obviously Mark and Draco came on and I just had to kick it to touch. But I thought, right, let's try Batwoman again now. Written by Bennett with Tinny and the Fourth helping acting art. It just did nothing for me. Simple as that. I wanted a new X-Men title on my pull list because I'm a huge X-Men fan, and it'd been a while since I kind of dipped my toe in the X universe, so We tried lots of them. If you've seen my videos, you'll know what I stuck with. But I did give X-Men Gold a go, and as fun as it was, I decided to pick the old time displaced teenagers from X-Men Blue. There was a lot of controversy about this. Obviously, people picked it up on the hidden messages that the artist put in this, and there was a huge big controversy about it. But that was not the reason why I stopped picking this up. I just had to pick one. I didn't want to get more than one. A one-shot, and it was great, as it always is, from Shaky Kane, the 1,000 yard stare, part of the Bulletproof Coffin one-shots. Every time he brings something out, it's always fantastic. I love it. It's fun. It's very retro, psychedelic craziness, but great stuff. DC did these kind of DC Looney Tunes crossovers, which honestly I wasn't particularly interested in, but everyone was raving about Batman and Elmer Fudd, so I managed to get a copy of that, and it was good. But it's just one of those kind of crossovers that, from what I heard from all sorts of places, that they were very, very hit and miss. But that was good enough. I'm quite happy to have got that. This is just in because it was the only issue of this that came out in 2017. Got a feeling Bendis hoped that this title was going to really rocket given the TV show, but that got cancelled, probably because it was limited to the PlayStation channel or whatever it was on. But Powers came back this time on Marvel's Icon line. I was very disappointed that Bendis could only manage one issue this year. Yes, he's a busy man with Marvel, and obviously we now know he's moving over to DC, but he just seemed to forget about this, and, well, what more is there to say? And finally, for the odd bits that are going on, Marvel brought out their Legacy #1, which is part of their new line where they were renumbering back to what they thought were the original numberings if they hadn't kept starting everything off on issue 1s. A lot of people had a problem with this. It felt more like almost like a catalogue of new titles that were coming out, and they've kind of been all mashed in to a storyline. I enjoyed it. It kind of setting things up for the next big thing, big event from Marvel, and like I said, it was reintroducing a lot of the characters that were going to get their own titles. But I had fun with it. It wasn't like DC's Rebirth in any way. That really was good and really set things going for their line. But still, fun enough. Fun enough. Right. Let us move on to the smaller, the smaller imprints. We'll kick off with Aftershocks Black Eyed Kids back. For those again of you who are who have been watching me regularly, this has been slow moving. Oh my goodness, it started off so well, really creepy. The atmosphere is there still, but it's just the storyline. It just kept explaining itself rather than letting the kind of story do the explaining, if that makes sense. But it's not been out for a while. I think there's an issue out probably this week, if I remember rightly. Hopefully it's kind of coming to an end. It's one of those titles that I can see it having a finite end, but and I want to see the end of it now. I've gotten this far, as average as this title is, but obviously 2018, I'm going to have to be a bit more stricter with these kind of books. Over at Valiant, very happy that one of the guys that work at the comic book shop occasionally recommended Exo Man of War to me from Matt Kint, and they've kind of been new artists for every storyline, but they've not been that dissimilar in artwork, so you haven't felt particularly shocked at the next artist. But this has just been a great kind of sci-fi epic of a storyline. Our main character Arik making his way up the ranks to eventually becoming the kind of emperor of this planet. A little bit reluctantly, he just wanted the quiet life, or so he thought. This title finished, which was a kind of breathed a sigh of relief in some ways, but it was James Tynion IV's The Woods from Boom Studios. All these kids got kidnapped and abducted to this war planet. It was crazy in parts. What I basically said about this was James Tynion, he finds it difficult finding the right pace for his book here. It kind of kept going up and up and up, and you got to the kind of peak and then it crashed back down again, and you kind of he had to kind of build it back up again instead of at least kind of keeping it halfway, you know, the excitement level, and not dropping it right back to the bottom again and starting all again. From Dark Horse, Matt Kint again, not Matt Kint, yes, no, it is Matt Kint and Charlene Kint. It's Department H from Dark Horse Comics. Fantastic murder mystery title from the depths of the ocean, turned into kind of almost survival horror type tale. Great storytelling as always from Matt Kint. You kind of get those storylines that do a lot of flashbacks that flesh the characters out, and you kind of get a bit, this is getting a bit tedious now, but this was not one of those titles. Every single kind of flashback storyline that Matt Kint told us really kind of enriched the story and got us a little bit closer to who the murderer is, who I've yet to figure out, but maybe you lot have. I'm confused. Yes, we had ourselves Conan the Slayer title to get us through 2017. I think it pretty much finished with issue 12. They kind of do these short kind of maxi runs with different writers and creators, but Cullen Bunn really did well for my Conan fascination. But I loved, I love a bit of Conan. You always know what you're going to get. The storyline isn't always, that deep or that engrossing. It's just that, it's like The Punisher. You know what you're going to get, but when they deliver it well, you just can't help but get involved with the whole universe that they put them in. Right, so I believe that's all the kind of smaller imprints. Let's move on to DC. Right, DC Comics. A huge range of things for DC. I didn't realise I'd actually collected that much of DC. I thought I'd really kind of slowed down on that, but apparently not. There's quite a lot to go on here, and I'm throwing in some Vertigo titles within this as well. But you might remember, it finished quite early on in, well, I say early on, it just, who knew when they added an extra issue basically, even when we thought it was going to be over. But Miller Azzarello and Cuba were doing the next Dark Knight, number 3, The Master Race, and looked nice. As I said in the reviews of the issues I had of this, every kind of volume of this that comes out, the quality of the storytelling seems to keep dipping, and I got to the point with this was, I understand what this is for now. This is to make the old Dark Knight young again via the Lazarus Pits, so they can basically do more of these, because there's only so long this old Batman could have gone on and kept fighting the evil of this future universe. So it was kind of disappointing in that respect. Huge hype about this book. Everyone is loving it. Everyone is throwing masses of praise on it, and in some respects I think it's deserved with the art. The story is kind of alienating me. It's just too out there. I think you need to know a lot more about the history of this character and the world that Kirby created with it. It is, of course, talking about Mr. Miracle, but this book has had so much ridiculously high hype. But like I said, it's not a bad comic by any means. It's gorgeous to look at. Miss Girard doing some fantastic artwork and layouts and panelling. But it's just a bit crazy with the storyline. Let's be honest. And where are we now? Move down a little bit aside. It was. Let's do this all as a one. This year would have seen Jack Kirby at his 100th birthday. So DC did a huge range of kind of homages and tributes to his work. And there were all these one-shots that came out, new stories about the characters he created. So we had Manhunter, written by Giffen and Dan Didio. We had The Black Racer and Shiloh Norman. That was Hudlin Cowan. Dark Side. These all kind of, they were good. There was definitely different styles. Sandman, the original, yes, the original Sandman from DC. Newsboy Legion and the Boy Commandos. This was one that was less of a fun read. It was very, very strange. New God Special. They kind of ate Kirby from the people who wrote and were aping Jack Kirby from the 90s. So it wasn't a true kind of tribute homage, if you ask me. I don't know if this really was part of it, but this was obviously a creation of Jack Kirby. But the Old Reds put out Bug, The Adventures of Forager, which just finished a week or two ago. But it was just crazy out there. Again, one of those books is very nice to look at, but really very confusing. Storyline wasn't really top notch. Then they had the Commandy Challenge, and I was so excited for this at the beginning. I really kind of gushed about this right at the very beginning because I thought it was doing a very good job. But unfortunately, as the months progressed, the quality just kept dipping and dipping. It just did not work in the way that I think DC really wanted it to. We had a different artist, a different writer on each one, picking up the cliffhanger from whoever was writing the previous one and had to get Commandy out of it. There was some glimmers of hope in here, but in the end, I think it really was a failed experiment. I don't believe any of these creators got together, however, in a room, on Skype, talked to each other and made a coherent storyline that would really feel like one big long story rather than these kind of short one-shots where the creators really just tried to get over the cliffhanger that they'd been put in. And just get on with the story that they wanted to tell. They did put out right before this Commandy Challenge special, which was lots of fun reprint stuff and gearing up for the main event. But it was still nice to see Commandy back in the DC universe. It would have probably just been nice to have a normal kind of book with one creator, one artist doing a coherent storyline. Right, let's move up to the next shelf with some Vertigo titles. We've got Astro City nearing its 50th issue. This has just been great from the very beginning. Loved this book, whether it was one-shot storylines, whether it was sprawling 6 issues of a longer story. Kurt Busiek, just does amazing stuff on this book. Never been bored with any of these issues, knows how to tug at the heartstrings when necessary. It's just all there. He doesn't waste anything, he doesn't put in stuff that doesn't need to be there. He's just a master storyteller. What have we got here? Right at the beginning of the year, Gail Simone finished what she says is the first volume of this book, this title, Clean Room. It was fantastic though. It reminded me of Vertigo titles when it was at its height, in the kind of late 80s, early 90s. Just a really great kind of psychological, violent, horrific horror book, which just fantastic. Love that. If you get a chance to get that in some sort of collected edition, then go for it. It was fantastic. So with the whole rebirth going on, I decided to try a couple of new books, and we continued this year with The Flash, Joshua Williamson, doing a pretty good job as we went along. Lots of different storylines, me trying to make sense of the universe, never having read a Flash title before, but I'm still going with this one. It's one of the DC Rebirth titles that I've stuck with because it's been the best for the ones that I picked up. I've had a lot of fun with it. We've had some kind of dark versions of Flash. We've been to the future. He's been absolutely a depressive arsehole at times, but we're out of that now, and it's just been a really great read. Got Green Lantern in there showing up as a cameo. We had the Button. Do you remember the Button? The crossover with Batman, and teasing us with the whole Watchmen stuff. But I really enjoyed this. There's the Batman, probably the only Batman issue I picked up, but it was part of the Button, so I had to pick that up as well. But just really great fun. And like I said, we'll be continuing with The Flash in 2018. Unfortunately, one of the ones that did get dropped, I just gave... People who have known me, I'm a bit stubborn with titles and I will keep going with them. Probably went a bit longer than I should have with this, but Wonder Woman, one of those DC characters that I still hadn't read as an ongoing title ever. So I thought I'd give it a go. And I always forget who wrote it first. Greg Rucka. Did a great job right at the very beginning with the whole origin kind of story, kind of trying to tie up all the different versions of her origin that different writers and creators had done over the years with her. And then once he left, it just kind of meandered and really wasn't sure where it's going. We had Shea Fontaine do a little bit, which was pretty awful, and I was very surprised, well, not that surprised, I felt a bit sorry for him, but James Robinson, who has been such a great writer in previous titles that he's done, probably DC was having him do all sorts with this character, and he probably didn't get to do exactly what he wanted to, which is a shame, but we're saying goodbye to Wonder Woman this year. Maybe in the future, it's not likely, but she's gone. She's gone. Right, let's just move these a little bit. One title from DC I have just loved. Fresh, I keep saying this, fresh, youthful, fun, entertaining. The Super Sons, Superboy and Damian Wayne Robin. Just had the greatest time with this. They are like the odd couple of the DC universe. Superboy's eternal optimism against kind of a Robin, Damian Wayne's cynical arrogance. But they just make the best fun team, and Peter Tomasi, he's just writing and clearly having the time of his life, and it just shows in these books. And I'm so glad I picked this up, and I'm still getting in, and I hope it goes on for a lot longer. Is that all the DC? Oh, okay. That's all the DC. Let's move on to Marvel. It's Marvel time, and people have been a little bit angry with Marvel. I'm not really quite sure why half the time, but if you look hard enough, and it doesn't have to be the huge big titles with the big names, there are some great stuff out there with creators writing some really good and fun Marvel storylines. Not least is Charles Soule. He's got a few books out in Marvel. This was Astonishing X-Men. This, I believe, is going to be a 12-issue maxi series, different artist on each book. And this first story arc has just ended. I think it was last week or the week before, but it has been a lot of fun. Very exciting having all these different artists which have just worked really well with the book. And the story from him has just been really great. Really enjoyed this. I can't wait for the next storyline. We've got this big cliffhanger of this perhaps younger version of Xavier, just called X, but absolutely love that. Moving on. Again, this was a title that I'm glad it was it started at number 1 for me to jump onto. It's a character that I've always enjoyed, but I stopped getting after the 700th issue. Little clue there. It is called Spider-Man. This one is Peter Parker, Spectacular Spider-Man, and written by Chip Zdarsky. And I found his writing a little irritating at times, to be honest. He's getting better, as I've said in the reviews of these books, but it was too heavy on the humour right at the beginning. It was like every other line, if not all the lines, had to be banter, had to be a joke, had to be something silly and funny. And it just got a bit tiresome after a while. And I can only think that Chip Zdarsky has either, I don't know if he's realised it, or he's basically running out of jokes, so he's got to be a bit more serious now. And it's certainly got a little bit more serious as the issues got on, but I'm glad to have a Spider-Man title in my collection again. We said goodbye to Star Wars. There's some US Star Wars comics. I did this at Dark Horse as well. I'm kind of a passing fan of Star Wars. I obviously watch the movies, not necessarily when they immediately come out, but I will get round to them and I enjoy them. The comics, however, I think are more for the die-hard fans, because there are all these names in there and people go raving about them and go, "Ooh, we know him from him," and I'm like, what? So I had fun for 30 issues. Jason Aaron really entertained me for the 30 issues that I had, but it's gone now. What have we got next? Yes, the X title that I decided to pick up, which began this year. It is X-Men Blue. They're currently doing this cross-time capers, where they're going to different points of time in the X universe. But it's been a fun title, using these time-displaced teenagers from the 60s. They did one of those kind of holographic, not holographic, lenticular covers. They had a bit of a play with that, and they weren't very good. But the stories inside, they were fun. We got Colin Bunn writing this with various artists, but I really enjoyed it. It was fun, X-Men adventuring, and although it kind of, as these kind of smaller X titles always do, they get kind of amalgamated into whatever kind of big event or side event is going on, and you kind of lose the memento of the story that they're actually in. And I think at times it does kind of hurt these titles. Who knows how long this has got to go, but I'm in it for, at the moment, the long haul. What have we got here? Charles Soule again, giving us Daredevil. By the end of the year, we finally got him back in our great complete red costume with the horns, because we had a little bit of the kind of black and red one. But this has been, it's been okay. It's been over okay, but not like brilliant. And I think I mentioned this in the last issue that I reviewed, and I thought about it even more given that my partner bought me a whole slew of old back issues from the kind of the Bronze Age of Daredevil, where he had all these great villains that that they played around with him in, and I think that's what's missing with this. They do kind of drop them in, but there doesn't seem to be that full fun element to it anymore, and it's very dark and it's very serious, and I'm sure that's playing off from the TV show as well. But you know, there's so many kind of villains that Daredevil could go up against, and I just want to see those kind of old villains back, you know, like the Owl, Mr. Fear. He's played around with a lot of Spider-Man villains, like the Scorpion, like Electro, all those. So let's not so much brighten it up, but just bring back the old feeling of Daredevil, and don't rely on or wanting to now ape the darkness of the TV show. Finished off with issue 20. Who was writing this? Charles Soule again. He had a busy 2017. The Uncanny Inhumans, which by the end of it got dragged into the Inhumans versus the X-Men storyline. Like I said, these smaller titles, they do tend to get amalgamated into whatever events going on in that particular universe. But fun, good title. But we said goodbye to it in 2017. We also said goodbye to the 12-issue maxi series from Samney and Wade, who brought Black Widow, threw a bit of their magic on Black Widow, and I really enjoyed this. A nice, good spy thriller in the kind of vein of, I guess, James Bond and the like. But yes, really had a good time with that. We've got here Jeff Lemire wasn't probably the best choice for this book. Extraordinary X-Men got to bless me issue 20 before we said goodbye to them. This is kind of a mixture of old and new characters. Once again got amalgamated into the old Inhumans versus X-Men, but that was way back at the beginning of 2017. The Punisher. Now we've got a new writer on the moment, Rosenberg, which has revitalised the Punisher character for me, because I had a rough time. We all know who I had a rough time with. Oh, sorry, there's also the Punisher Platoon that came out this year. But yes, Becky Cloonan tried her hardest with this character, but I'm just going to be honest, she didn't know what she was doing with it. Someone, I can't remember who it was, but sent me a link to an interview with her, like a podcast, and basically she said she'd never read a Punisher book in her life, which could have worked for her in some respects. She could have done so much more with it. I kept saying, and no one kept answering me, and I still can't find anything, so I'm just going to believe it to be true. But I think she is the first female writer to have done The Punisher. And you would have thought something new, something interesting, something original would have come out of it. It didn't. It really didn't. But I said I was happy to see the back of her. Sorry, Becky. We said goodbye to Silver Surfer. he does have these titles that don't go on very long, and it's a shame, but at the same time I think it might be good if we let someone else have a go at this title. It's Dan Slott, it's the Old Reds, they've done a couple of volumes previous to this. Oh, we've done this now. We've done the kooky, kind of psychedelic version of Silver Surfer. I've always said I want him to go back to being on his own, which he basically will be, whoever picks it up next, and to go out in space and do the whole big cosmic stuff. But seriously, this has been fun for what it was, but we've done this now. It was good for what it was. Let's change it up now, and hopefully Dan Slott will let go of the reins there and give someone else a shot. One of my favourite characters. We finished with the Aaron and Bocello right at the beginning of the year, but Doctor Strange, we've got... It's that guy again, Johnny Cates, who is actually doing a great job on this. I'm really enjoying the storyline that he's currently doing with the whole Loki Sorcerer Supreme. And who else have we had on this? Is it John Barber? I can't remember his first name now. But that got involved in this whole Captain America, the Secret Empire, that's it, storyline, which for me kind of worked, but it really didn't even need to be in that storyline. It could have been a story on its own where Mordo had taken over all of Doctor Strange's magic and his house, his Sanctum Sanctorium, but it was kind of sad to see Jason Aaron and Bocello leave the book, because they just fitted the book really well. Bocello's artwork was fantastic on this, as I always feel it is, because he's one of my favourite comic book artists. He really got the whole magic side of it and making it fantastical and magical and imaginative. But you know, creative teams come, creative teams go. Almost to the end of the Marvels, when we're gonna almost finish with Moon Knight. We had a little break. We finished off Lemire, Smallwood and Bellaire's run. We've now got the new one from Bemis and Burroughs, which have again taken on what Lemire did with the last series and kind of ran with that. But this one by Lemire and Smallwood was just a really great read. Really made me enjoy Moon Knight again. Not that the last one, which was I think it was the Warren Ellis run for a while, wasn't it? But just great the way they kind of delved into his psyche and his split personality stuff. That was a lot of fun. Finally for Marvel, it only came out, I think it was last week. I'll just quickly tell you, Marvel 2-in-1, The Thing versus and the Human Torch. Really enjoyed this. I can't wait for more issues, and it's just teasing away that we may get the Fantastic Four back in 2018. Fingers crossed, because we need an FF title in the Marvel Universe. They're all my Marvel books. Right, let's finish up with all those Image books. Image is the one that I always collect the most of, because guess what? They put out the best stuff, and that you want to continue to read and read again and recommend to all your friends, whether they want to read them in singles or in trades. We're kicking off with a book that I didn't initially pick up, but fortunately found the 2 issues at a comic book store on a trip out, and it's now on my pull list, and it should have been to begin with. But it's Wes Craig doing the Gravediggers Union, a kind of horror future book where vampires, zombies and all sorts of ghosts and ghoulies are wreaking havoc on the land, and we have these grave diggers who have to put them back in the ground. But there's evil a brewing, and it's just a fantastic book. Something that I didn't think I was going to enjoy as much as I did was Jordi Belair's and Vanessa Del Rey's Redlands. We've had zombies, we've had vampires, we had a little touch of witches a couple of years back with Scott Snyder, but they're back again. This kind of back swamp town where these witches reside and basically are the law enforcement there. First issue felt a little bit TV pilot, but they've really kind of embellished now the universe and really kind of moved it on and got me interested in these characters and what the hell's going on all around. Cannot believe this, but David Lapham's Stray Bullets is making his way to issue 30 and has got no signs of stopping, and me happy about that, because this has just been such a crazy, fun, very dark, humorous look at kind of a slice of life of the dark underbelly of crime, somewhat farcical in nature, but David Lapham, he's just got everything going exactly how he wants. No matter how much it digresses, no how much you think, what the hell has this got to do with the main story, and I use that kind of loosely, it all just ties in. It's fantastic. Read it. Something that didn't come out that very often, and I'm kind of waiting for it to end. It's one of those ones, I've been getting it for so long now and I just want to see the end of it, is Eric Stevens' Them Not Like Us. This is a book that I mostly get really for the art, sound gain. I really enjoy the art style he puts on this, but another book with people just standing around talking about what they're going to do instead of just doing it. Why this book has probably been going on for longer than it really needed to. So come on, Eric, sort it out, get this story finished. One of my favourite sci-fi books of this year was Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen's Descender. We had the whole Rise of the Robots storyline that's just finished. Everything about this book has been pretty special. It's unlike really any sci-fi book that I've ever read before, certainly in the style, the artistic style of this book, where Dustin has been doing this kind of painted, like it looks like it's on a bit of canvas. There's none of that kind of clean lines of the future. It just has this element that really appeals to me, and the storyline has been magnificent. So many different threads, but Jeff never forgets about them, picks them up when he needs to, and gets them all coming to a central point. Just fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. And I'm running out of room in this long box, just like I thought I would. So this is now going to be fun. Let's move on. We saw, which is quite sad, one issue of The Autumn Lands from Kurt Busiek, issue 14, that kind of almost Commandy-esque story there from him. It's been a great run so far of what we've had, but we've kind of lost it. I can't even remember when this came out, but it was a long time ago, and I don't know who we're waiting on, whether Kurt is spending too much time over on Astro City, or maybe too much time on Twitter, who knows, but we need to see more of this book in 2018. The fantastic Rick Remender has done some great stuff over this year, as he does all years, but Black Science, another of my favourite sci-fi books, a kind of dimension hopping but messing everything up. Fantastic artwork by Matteo Scalera on here. I cannot get enough of his artwork, and he should be on way more books, as long as he keeps obviously the quality up as he does, but this has just been fantastic. It's one of those books where you just don't really know where it's going to go, but it's always fantastic. It throws in a little bit of kind of standard superheroics in here as well that you don't expect from this kind of book, but Remender just does it the right way. fantastic. My favourite book of the year. I mean, they always put out great stuff, but somehow, some way, every time they bring out a new title, this team just gets better and better and better. Kill or Be Killed! People haven't particularly liked the covers on these, but what's inside certainly has met expectations and exceeded. This kind of vigilante, throwing in a bit of demon, maybe supernatural stuff, but more likely now, as the story has been going on, is a kind of mental condition within his family, a kind of curse of this demon. But the way the Brubaker has intertwined all these storylines made you kind of root for this guy, but at the same time feel a bit uncomfortable about that, because while he does seem to be doing the kind of heroic thing, he seems to be enjoying it a little bit too much, and it's a little bit scary. We saw the end of Mark Millar and Greg Capullo's Reborn, which I just kind of felt didn't really live up right at the end. The finale, at least, didn't really do what I wanted it to do. Again, obviously, it's Greg Capullo. The artwork is beautiful. This fantastical realm of good versus evil. When you die, however you treated your life, if you were like a good guy in life and helped people out, you were on the good side in this kind of limbo area, or if you did horrible things or you were murderers, etc., you went to the evil side, and it was this constant battle, and it was 6 issues wasn't really enough for it to make the story what it should have been. The always solid saga continued. Fiona Staples and Brian K. Vaughan. I never know what to say about Saga anymore, because it's always excellent, but you just expect that now, and so you kind of expect more from it with each issue. And I don't think this year it really delivered that more, which might be a failing on my half. Like I said, it's always been a solid read. It's always, kind of, it pushes buttons in some respects. There's a good solid storyline there, but I just wanted something more, and maybe that's my failing, that I'm asking too much from the people who write this now, and maybe, I won't say they've peaked, but maybe this is all it is now, even if it is a great book to read. I hope you understand that. I'm not sure I do. Really enjoyed the Continuing Tales of Deadly Class. Again, the book by Remender, with Wes Craig and Boyd doing the colours. This is the start of... Did we start the new year? We had already, yes. Well, this is the one with the new characters now, the new freshers, but still giving us some of the old characters from the first year at this school for assassins. As usual, crazy storylines, violent, great kind of shocks and reveals going on. Romance thrown in there as well. It's just always been one of my kind of favourite books to read, whether I'm too excited and have to read it first, or if I have the patience to leave the really good stuff till the end. But always going to recommend Deadly Class to all of you. Moving on to Paper Girls. Another Brian K. Vaughan book, this time with Cliff Chang doing the art. We've got some colours by Matt Wilson. I've said this before, and I think it was Damien, Sleepy Reader 666, has said the same. We're going to keep getting this as singles, but this would be much better to be read as a trade, basically because it's quite slow moving. Let's be honest here. It does do great stuff with character, leading it by character rather than what the storyline dictates. And I think that's why at times it can be quite slow moving. There is action in there is excitement, as these kind of 4 girls have been kind of time hopping between their kind of present to our future, to their future, which is our present, then going into the future, going back to the past. It's all crazy. We're only starting now to get glimpses of why this is all happening. I'm guessing this has a finite life and we may be coming to the end. I don't know. But what we've had, I've really enjoyed, and it's been fun all the way. Not many issues came out, but when they did, Jonathan Hickman's East of West was always a wonderful read. This kind of post-apocalyptic universe that's got this kind of Western feel to it, a kind of Civil War element to it. Just keeps building and building and building until, you know, we're getting ready for this all-out war between all the kind of states within this this country, this continent, wherever it may be. It's obviously very Americanized. But the backstabbing, the double dealing, the hidden agendas in this, keeping up with it, you've got to be on the ball, but fantastic. And Dragotta's art and Martin's colours on this just make this a very special book. It's taken quite a big break, but that's okay because the art style on this is just lovely. The kind of steampunk fantasy of Marjorie Liu and Santacada's Monstrous. Really had a good time with this, despite the fact that there's only 3 issues this year. But I believe it's coming back very soon, and we'll get the start of a new storyline. But it's very nice to look at. In fact, I'd go as far as to say it was gorgeous. Again, one of those titles that didn't come out a lot. This is one of the books that's probably a lower tier Remender book. More excited for the artwork of Ticini, but it is the kind of underwater post-apocalyptic storyline called Low, which, like I said, only had 4 issues. We finally did make it to the surface, but didn't really stay there for very long. And we have no clue at the moment whether Mummy Dearest is still alive or not, because they kind of left that hanging to go and look and see what was going on with the sisters. One of my top 10 favourite Image comics of 2017 was Scotty Young's I Hate Fairyland, and as you know, it's just crazy, over-the-top cartoon violence, very funny, and so kind of, it breaks so many genres. It just delves into all of them and kind of apes them, you know, takes the mickey out of them a lot of the time, but with heart. It's not being nasty in any way, but fun all the way with that. Lazarus did take a break. We had 1 issue of the main title, issue 26, finishing off. What was the storyline? Was it the Cull? I think it was. And they're kind of taking a bit of a rest, so Lark can maybe catch up with the great artwork on here. So what Greg Rucka did was bring out this 6-issue mini-series. We're waiting for the last one, Lazarus X+66, which were these kind of one-shot storylines delving into characters that you wouldn't normally get to see more of in the main title. The main title is more about the families and how they kind of bicker and, you know, backstab each other and try and gain more territory and the like. This delved into the more smaller characters and how they live their life in the Lazarus universe. Different artists on each book. The books have been great. Each kind of individual storyline has been very interesting. But yeah, really enjoyed those. Another Rick Remender book. It's felt like he didn't stop in 2017. I'm glad he didn't, because we got 7 to Eternity. The last issue of this before it took a hiatus was heartbreaking. It really was. It's got up to, what issue did we get up to? Issue 9, and they've been building and building this sense of family, doing the right thing by them, but ultimately betraying that ideal that your family was keeping. The covers on these were just gorgeous. Jerome Pina just did some fantastic work on this. We did get a couple of issues. Who was it? It was where is he? James Harron, which I wasn't overly keen on. Maybe if he'd just done this title, we'd have got used to it, but having been treated by Jerome Pina's artwork, when Harron came on, it felt a little bit disappointing, unfortunately. We're nearly at the end, I promise. Jeff Lemire's Royal City. Oh, it was been an emotional roller coaster with this book. It's one of those quiet books. This can be as slow as it damn well wants. I don't care, because this has, and Jeff Lemire does this so well. He really has a feel for his characters. He makes you not fall in love with them, but get so super invested in them, and really connect with at least one of them, and you will identify yourself with numerous, if not at least one of the characters. And it's just been a fantastic kind of one of those slice of life storylines, but it has a kind of fantastical element to it, which hopefully will kind of get reasoned out by Jeff Lemire, and we can understand, you know, what's really going on. But I heartily recommend anyone to read that. The last issue came out, I think it was last week, Headlopper, of this latest 4-issue miniseries, Headlopper and the Crimson Tower. The only way I can always describe this is kind of Conan meets Adventure Time, and it's just this kind of fantastical imaginative nonsense, but it's fun, and you really kind of get invested in these crazy silly characters when you know, it's like, it's a small little kind of munchkin character, and you feel sad when bad things happen to him. You really shouldn't, but you do, and that's the great artistry and storytelling of Andrew MacLean. Again, one of those books that didn't come out very often, but when it did, my God, it blew my socks off. Again, it's Hickman and Tom Coker's The Black Monday Murders, especially this last issue before they took another long break, really kind of spun my head, but in a such a good way. This idea that you've got this kind of dark cabal of demons and supernatural beings that are driving the financial world, and all the kind of stock market drops and gains, and so much back matter in that helped kind of again enrich what Hickman's doing. Came out at the end of this year, but my goodness, it's been a whole lot of fun and not exactly what I was expecting. Steve Scrooge, Dave Stewart and Phonographs Maestros, which is this crazy adult fantasy world where we have our main protagonists kind of Hugh, you know, he's the greatest wizard ever who runs this world, dies, and he basically is the next in line, and it's you know, it's that good against evil kind of deal. Lots of magic, lots of very adult themed visuals as we go through that, but I'm ready for that. I'm ready for the next issue of that. What I wasn't particularly ready for, but I'm still willing to give a chance, we'll finally talk about Seth M. Peck and Jeremy Hound's The Realm. And as I said, for probably every issue of this, they've tried to throw too much in one book. Sci-fi, fantasy, horror, adventuring, there's just way too much in this for one title, and you know, it's kind of breaking in many different genres and mashing them all together. But I think it needs to tidy it up a little bit. Editing, that's the word. It needs to edit itself a little bit more. And that's all of my books. I hope you managed to get to the end of that. Really looking forward to 2018 to see what happens with our comic books, what magical adventures our creators are going to send us on next year. And I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know in the comment section down below. Give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you in 2018. Thank you all for watching. Bye bye.